getting going here. I just have to set a few things up for Extra Life to get it going, which are unfortunately only available as last minute changes, and then I need to get the stream set up to use my my game, because I can't do that at a time with this game because it involves injecting an overlay into it to record it. And it can't be injected until it's up and running. Fuck. I misnamed this one, didn't I? Yeah, I did. I'm a fucking dingus. Videos, live, Extra Live charity stream, Kerbal space program. Sorry if you came here for Arma, that ain't this. Alright, now that I'm on to Extra Life and over to my page. It's probably actually on dashboards. I'm gonna open that in a new tab just to be safe. It's a little slow. Yeah. It's actually on my page. Alright, okay, the YouTube overlay comes from right here. Please say I actually pasted the right link. JZV, yep, we're good to go. Looks good. Okay, just a few more tiny little details. I know I can schedule a stream to YouTube, but I'm not sure if I get my link ahead of time. I think links are served on an as-need basis. Oh, they're calling blackface brownface now. Too offensive. Of course it's fucking offensive. We don't water things down because that are offensive and that should be addressed because of how offensive they are, simply because they're offensive in name. They're fucking offensive. That's why they need to be addressed. Anyways. $1920 by 1080. We're off by a pixel on each. And that, there we go. Good to go. We just have to sit through this. This is the part that I wish I could get going before the stream. Also, it is flickering. That's new. That's flickering over on here. Oh, 0 drop frames as well. Weird. So I discovered some cool things about Kerbal Space Program that, despite having played it for a good amount of this year so far, I've been playing it since I moved to Tampa at least, which was July, beginning of July actually. And secret to having fun in it in the long run is getting science early on. You can putz around all you want early on, but without that science, you are going to get bored very quickly in career Science is boring to get, and it's also tricky to get early on. Towards the end of the game, I'll start gathering, like, without putting in any extra effort, other than a little bit of initial to start the whole process. And then every now and then the slightest bit of effort to go over to each of those ships that's doing this, and to transmit the data and the science back to Kerbal Space Center. No extra effort beyond that is required to get data mid-game via space stations and research modules. Blanking on the actual name of them. They allow you to fully research different things. Without ever having to level up astronauts without ever having to come back to Kerbal. Sorry. Kerbal is the sun. My microphone is going a little bit away from it. Probably sound a little funky. Okay. I remember starting meeting one night when I make adjustments live. I also need to get a fucking piece of foam for it. Because it's sitting right under a fan. Shouldn't really get it because it's hypercarbureted. But it's also next to an AC, and those two air forces definitely push it into the behind area of the pattern. So I figured out a little bit of a trick to gathering science early game. Wait, why is this dude it goes? This is not good. You've got to be kidding me. Hold on. No, I'm running the right copy of the game. Okay. Thought I started the copy of the song. I saw the stage drive. Yeah, this is a little spooky. It looks like one of my looks like one of my mods got corrupted. I can only assume that it is a Kerbal inventory system because oh god, this isn't right at all. Sorry, we're gonna have to hard close this. Very unexpected. Yeah, exiting this game is never fun. I'm trying to hard close it so that it doesn't persistent save on top of this issue we have right now. It's closed, but I need to start up CCAN, which is where I get my mods from. Add available updates, apply changes, apply. I don't really know why we're having this issue. File origin hard drive on this computer? Well, it is not, actually. It's not what most baby bunnies look like. That ain't good. Yeah, the flickering was the first bad sign that I saw. Something happened with the shaders, but it wouldn't have happened to the main menu if it was an issue with my persistent save file. It's across the board with the game right now. I don't know what the fuck's up. It didn't update or anything. And one of my mods shouldn't have simply stopped working, right? So I haven't run CCAN, so it didn't auto-update the mod since my last run. I just ran CCAN to see if there's anything new. Near Future Electric and two other Near Future mods were updated. Nothing changed with regard to Kerbal inventory system, which should change the appearance of our Kerbal in the main menu, the first main menu, the first screen that pops up after this loading screen is done. Okay, it is going. We have that issue again, and I am sorry, but we will have to stream something else. I'm not going to waste the rest of my night and the stream time I have fixing it. I'll fix it throughout tomorrow if I get the chance. Otherwise, be a little sad because I had some great ideas for this playthrough. And the science that I discovered. I keep getting distracted. The discovery I made about science early game is that as soon as you have wheels, it is very easy to get a shit ton of science without leaving Kerbal Space Center campus. There are so many pieces of science because there are bonus biomes across each building at different upgrade levels. Like, only one of them is missable content. The VAB has a Southern Complex biome, which is only available as a level 2 upgrade. Level 3, it's gone. Level 1, it's not there yet. I grabbed that one, among a few others. In about 5 minutes of driving around Kerbal Space Center, I gathered 104.2 units of science. That's pretty good. It took a lot longer to design a rover without any composite construction materials, though. I ended up using those modular beams that you start out with in the construction category, attached to a Science Junior at the bottom, and then above that Science Junior, there are 2 service bays, which I ended up taking one of them off, filled with batteries, and above that is our command module, which I chose my lightest weight one that I have, which is the pomegranate or whatever re-entry module. Not that one, whatever the first re-entry module you start out with is. Instead of a Mark 1 command pod, because it weighs a little bit less. I would have done this Striputnik, but it is unmanned, and I wanted a scientist so that I could at least reset one experiment. And attached to the Science Junior are a goo device, a thermometer, and a barometer. Then you've got the 4 I-beams, like I mentioned. The I-beams on the sides have
an I-beam each that are, or the modular girder segment, sorry, that are perpendicular to and parallel to the sort of parallel to the ship. They're perpendicular to the beam coming out of the ship on those sides, and those each have a wheel or. I'll show you. Only 2 of the wheels steer and have motor power, but it has at least 6 wheels. Not like a dually truck. This was done in order to be able to balance it, because it was the only way possible. Gotta wait for this. If I click anything, I think it's frozen and crash the whole game. The segment's ready to go. So once that clears up and becomes interactive, and we have more than 1 frame per second, we'll be good to go. That's about now. That. Entirely of running out of RAM because it's on VRAM. Now we're getting. Yeah. I just wanted to check one minor detail of the fucking stream. Is that so much to ask? It says 0 drop frames. All that just to check that. Okay. Come on. As soon as we get in here, we're good. That should be cool. It's a little warm actually. The case is. That's because the 1080 Ti I have. My case is this big. Yeah, my case is like this big. My 1080 Ti is that big. It takes up all but a few inches in there. So it's really close to basically every part of the case at that height. I'm not sure I'm running an overclock on my CPU anymore. Actually, I am, but it's tapered down a bit to ease my electric bill a little bit. Yeah, this is much better. Alright, so the whole science thing that I was yammering on about. Let's get some light in here. This is the best thing about this apartment. Fucking so easy to turn on the living room light. It is Bad Science Mark II. Runway version. There is no runway version Mark II, or non-runway, launchpad version Mark II. But the idea was something I was drawing up in, because I thought I could walk around and do EVA reports and come back, but it is such a long walk from the launchpad, and it's not much closer from the runway, as I found out with Bad Science 1 and the runway. So I designed this monstrosity. These ones do not steer, they don't have motor power. These ones as well, not steered, no motor power. These rear wheels don't steer and don't have motor power. These 2 front wheels do steer and do have motor power. We don't actually need a pilot for this. What we truly do want is a scientist. And I actually have a little bit more designing to do on this. It's something really simple though. It involves grabbing goo container, barometer, and finally our thermometer. And making sure that we haven't obstructed the hatch like that. Good to go. Because these were out of reach. We couldn't collect the data from these 2. We couldn't collect the data from this either, but we also couldn't restore it if we had collected it one way or another. Because we can't get all the way off of here. These are our best ladders. At the moment. These are our only ladders too. So, the other detail of a rover, whether or not you use a rover module, is to make sure it has no rotational or torque enable. You can't actually view that out on the runway, but you do that in the spaceplane hangar, or if you're designing the VAB for whatever reason, in the VAB. Doesn't matter where you design it, as long as it works for you. It is a little nicer to design them in the runway and then make them semi-modules, I think they're called. I'll show you what I'm talking about in a minute for those of you who do not know about what I'm talking about by semi-modules, or if you know what it is, you'll know what I'm trying to say, I'm sure. It's in the advanced mode in building, and it will save you so much time. And in making rovers for sky cranes or whatever, not sky cranes, sky cranes, yeah, it is sky crane. Or if you're making a tiny little rover with a rover max command module and some of these wheels, like 4 of these wheels attached to it, you can store them inside of, this is the smaller version of the service bay, but you can store them inside of the next biggest service bay. I know, it looks empty. I just wanted my batteries out of view. Unfortunately, they won't clip onto the bottom of these. They will only want to clip onto the top. But we're moving pretty fast, 8.9 meters per second. That's about our max acceleration, probably. I don't think that MechJet Vessel Info can tell us that. No, it has no idea. Well, it's also not a full meter. It is a full meter per second. It's not a full meter per second squared because it's not acceleration that we're measuring here. We're measuring velocity on this. Look at how fast we're moving in orbit. That's pretty cool. So basically, you go around. The runway is its own, as long as you are on the ground, the runway is its own entire biome. This can be tested by doing like crew reports. This is spaceplane hangar biome. Cool, right? Crew reports on the ground here don't do much. It's important that you grab at the least, that you grab the science data from the south complex of the VAB. It is these 3 tents. If you touch any part of them with your craft, you'll be in that biome, the south complex biome, to grab a crew report and whatever science you want there that you can get. And also to make sure that whenever you're doing these, that in these rovers, you gotta touch them, which means the second you get out, it's gonna roll away, see? Toggle brake action group. You want it toggled on so that it doesn't roll away. Now, we're no longer SPH main building. I've already gathered science here, so observing the material bay, 0.4. We're gonna reset it. There's no point in grabbing it. But gonna go ahead and grab pressure data. I already have an EVA here as well, and temperature data we got, and observe the mystery goo and do an EVA before it pops up with the little info. Didn't get max science on that one. Not a big deal. Collect the data, yes. I wish I could disable that pop-up. I avoid rendering devices useless when I don't have, okay, it's reset. When I don't have a scientist anywhere near the craft to restore it, whether or not he's on board. And even if my space station doesn't consist of a research module, I will at least keep 1 scientist and 1 engineer on board for fixing small things, whether it's related to that ship or not. Anything that docks to it or can't dock to it because I don't have a docking node, and just I get it next to it and drop the velocity relative to the target, relative to the space station to 0, and then just EVA scientist or the engineer over the other craft to fix whatever needs to be fixed. Otherwise, I won't fuck with that sort of thing unless that can be done with ease. But so I've gotten the stuff around here. I got the south complex. I got the main building. I got whatever this thing is. I think that's still part of the main building. I got some of the astronaut complex stuff over here. Oh, this is actually R&D. I'm sorry. This is the astronaut complex here. We are losing acceleration here. Wheel stress must be a little high. 0.3, yeah, that's pretty high. Okay. Toggle the brakes on. Oh, that doesn't toggle them. I'm so used to just hitting the B key. Because for things like U to turn on lights, it toggles it. It doesn't just do it while you hold it. And for like gear, it toggles it with the brakes. Which I can definitely understand. You want brakes to act temporarily. Unless you toggle them on. Otherwise, it will only act as a parking brake. Sometimes you just want to slow down, not stop and hold. Sometimes. So, crew report. I'm leaving the crew report open just so that I know when I've gotten my data from somewhere. So I know I don't need to do the mystery, or that I don't need to do the science junior here. But as you saw when I came back into here, I had to move this stuff around because it was out of reach. Keep it, collect the data, remove the data, restore the unit, and log, keep it, take the data. What the fuck? What? Oh, thought it just crashed on me. It went to desktop. But I'm seeing my toolbar. That was the annoyance that sparked it all. Give me a minute. Popping out of games, indie games like this always slows me down a bit. Always. I've yet to find an indie game that doesn't like to eat up RAM inappropriately. Speaking of indie games, I am going to replay My Summer Car. As frustrating a game as it is, I think it is a great thing to stream for charity, simply because you're going to see how pissed off I get at small, stupid little things. Like the fucking engine mounting process not going right and dying of starvation while trying because I've said, oh, we don't need to go get food in the van just yet. And it's also a cool game because I'll be using my wheel and my keyboard and my mouse because it drives really well with the wheel. It's got force feedback. We are too tall. God, I can't believe we made it. Oh my god, this is the end, my friends. Because it tilts a little bit under acceleration force, we might be able to wiggle out of here. I think we just got ourselves stuck all the way. Where's our highest spring? Up here? Spring and damper, spring and damper, spring strength, spring strength. Here, all the way down. Just collapse this shit. We're stuck. There's no fixing it. We got enough science though. Let's get some shit done. Let's see if we can't sort of get started on space station. Super early game space station, no less, but a space station. No less. I messed that sentence up, but forgive me. 18 science, right? We barely did shit. 18 science is a pretty good yield. We went to one building, really. We used one building. I guess we used part of the VAB to demonstrate and gather the missing science from the first run off of it. I've gotten nothing off the tracking station. I've gotten some off this. I've gotten nothing off mission control. Clearly gotten a good amount off astronaut complex. I've done flagpole. I haven't done the admin building. I've done some of R&D, although I'm not sure where the wind tunnel is. Is this the wind tunnel? Maybe I don't have it yet. It's not really something you know you have unless you knew that there was a biome in it. Doesn't do anything in reality. In the actual function of the game, it doesn't do anything. In reality, it would do plenty. It would be mandatory for getting off the ground, really. So, what I'm thinking is we don't really need docking ports until we have everything else we need for a space station, which means we need hitchhiker storage containers, which we have this really fucking big one. I think this is like a 2.5 meter wide cross profile. So miniaturization is the cheapest, earliest docking port you can get your hands on. All docking ports are created equal. Don't let them trick you. You just can't connect two different ones together. As is. There are ways around it in situ, but we'll focus on that in a later time when we go about upgrading docking ports on the fly, like in space on our space stations. We'll upgrade some of them at some point to allow for newer vessels to dock to it that use newer docking ports. As I said, they're all equal, but some of them look better on some ships, but we aren't going to be building anything that big this early anyways. So we will kind of skirt around grabbing the miniaturization just yet, because we have battery packs. We have nothing to generate. We have capacitors, but those don't generate electricity on their own. They're just extra batteries at this point, until they can be charged. They don't really act as a form of electrical generation. Although, one of the other things that I want in our space station is the mobile processing lab. That's the research lab I was talking about. Research module is what I was calling it. We'll end up with this itinerant service component, compartment, which comes from Near Future Electric. It is a radioisotope. It doesn't actually say that. Oh, it does right here. Radioisotope generator. It generates the tiniest bit of electricity, but it adds 600 EC, and it stores 2 Kerbals. The species, not the sun. Spelled differently, but they're probably pronounced the same. Eventually for probes, we'll want to have this unlocked. I don't really care for anything from here. I have actually used the LD1 ant engine. It actually does have some use, but not for going up. And not for going down either, but for staying in one place. I'll put it on top of landing modules, lunar landing modules, to, once we've landed, thrust down to ensure that we don't bounce back up. Or once we've made our first contact with our landing struts to the ground, I always seem to bounce back up. So I put one of these on there and I stage it so that the other engines shut off, and this one kicks on to partial throttle. It doesn't give like any thrust at all on the moon, but it gives 2.0 because it's a vacuum. But it's enough to keep you down. It's not enough to accelerate your movement towards the ground the last few inches either. But anyways, we need it regardless. We need this unlocked regardless so that we can get precision propulsion eventually for these. These are great on probes. For the final stage, the stage that does not separate from the probe, for any minor adjustments later on in the probe's life, such as a lot of the probes I build are merely because I have contracts to build a probe. And we're not gonna get any of those probes. Yes. Fuck me, I'm not even tired. We're not gonna get any of those contracts until we have Unmanned command modules unlocked. I'm not sure where the fuck they are though. These are from a mod, so it's hopefully not in these. Actually, you know what? It has to be in these. This is from a mod, which is why it's empty. Because the cupula module is not cupula. These two are mods. This is not a mod. This isn't a mod either. Not a mod. Fun fact. The variants aren't different colors on this. This is a lander can. It's meh, especially since it's the Mark II lander can, and the Mark I's slightly better. Weighs less, better impact, all sorts of things. Better for what you'd want it for, although it has one more crew capacity, I think, than the Mark I. But this is a rover. I can't describe it any better without having it unlocked, and I can't unlock it just yet. I can't really justify getting this. I'm looking for unmanned modules. Octo 2 is a good one. It can't do target hold, but that's alright. It weighs so little, but as long as we have the right sort of mass behind it on the payload, it's great for docking. Two things. But having it control a space station, once it gets a little big, not a good idea at all. So, unmanned tech requires precision engineering, which requires either electrics or... Okay. And actually, here we go. Electrics is the one to do. Here's the Octo 1 unmanned module. Has SAS. That's it, just for stability assist. We also grab a Z200 rechargeable battery bank, which is great to have. I didn't know that you got all these deployable, groundbreaking expansion parts separate of each other. That's a little annoying. So we'll end up with this, and we'll end up with solar chargers. Which eventually I will be ripping off of any probe or spaceship out there that I look at often enough to want to change it. Once I have better ones unlocked, which will be done with this electric screwdriver and a very, very brave engineer of a Kerbal. So we grab that, we leave the facility, go to mission control. We don't have anything all that good here. Active contracts, we've got a few. They're tricky. Exploring the Mun doesn't have a deadline, so I grabbed it because eventually we will land at the Mun. Eventually. Actually, I'm not even sure that that's the requirement of that contract. Orbit the Mun. Return to Kerbal from an orbit of the Mun. Oh. Let's go knock that out. I want to say it'll be easy, but something stupid's going to happen, isn't it? Okay, so what we are going to do is we are going to grab Bad Dream 2. Actually, we want to grab Sadie 1. This was what got us to the moon last time. I don't know how many of you saw that last stream of KSP. That is so sad. So Bad Dream 2, I grabbed fuel hoses since then. You're gonna get to see asparagus staging if you've never seen it. This is a treat. Alright, so here's our staging setup. Don't even worry about any of that right now. I really wish I could get the view, but do your best not to worry about any of it. Trust me. So we've got 4 Reliant engines. One in the center. That's our main thrust, ultimately. Let's call it the main thrust. Then we have these 2. These are secondary thrusts, let's just call it that. They're all thrusting the same amount. They all have, ultimately, the same amount of fuel on hand, too. But they have different burn times. I'll get to that in a minute. Here's our tertiary thrust. These 2. This one on the right, well, this one on the front, and this one on the back. because this is right and this is left, because this is the direction the spaceship faces. So front and back make up tertiary. Left and right make up secondary. Center is our main stage. Oh, is our main rocket, our main engine. They all have a T400 connected to two T200. I said that fine. I don't know why I repeated it. Yes, there is no real difference other than it's probably cost in having two T200s. Well, let's run that for some proof right now, at least on the mass. 1,125 kilos. 125 of which come from the fuel it contains. Come from its dry weight, I'm sorry. Minus, well, we have to multiply it by 2. Okay. 2250. They're even. They weigh exactly the same as having 2 of these. It's the same amount of fuel in the engine. So, they all have 1 400 and 2 200s. And then the ones on the sides all have aerodynamic nose cones. Notice how there are no wings. It happened not to need them. Although if we wanted them, they would look pretty cool. Even though they're these basic fins, you'd go 4 times symmetry, get it somewhere in between one of them, and you're left with this. It's not really going to add any actual aerodynamic because it's inside, really. This is going to push most of the air out of here. Ideally, you'd want wings running off of these that as it floats down the side, something like that, if anything. But it's good. It's good how it is, because the wind, the air, the drag, and the displace evenly throughout it without wings. Plain and simple. So, as I mentioned, these all fire right from the start. We get 750 meter second delta V off our first stage. That's not much of it. For 4 or 5 engines. 5 engines going at once. But then we destage. We destage our tertiary engines. We destage swap them around. What I once called the tertiary, front and back, are now our secondary. What I called our secondary are now our tertiary, left and right. So we destage our tertiary engines right here. And when they're destaged, these engines, they all have the same amount of fuel. But because there are fuel hoses, it flows into the next. Meaning we get great amount of thrust with very little fuel consumed. And because these are all emptying out evenly, in theory, like if we took these fuel hoses off, they would all be empty at roughly the same amount of time. In a perfect world. But because of the fuel hoses, our tertiary, left and right, fuel tanks bleed into our secondary ones. So as they all burn and this one empties, it takes priority of this one's fuel more than the engine does off of its own fuel tanks. So it fills this up and it keeps it full. It keeps it full the entire time it has any full fuel. And so this continues to burn. But it still burns on this one with an appropriate thrust to weight ratio. And our secondary engines will then be the only engines still attached once these decouple, in addition to the main engine. And those tanks bleed into, see the arrows that it's pointing into the secondaries. These secondaries bleed into the main tank of our inner rocket fuel tank, keeping it full. And it really isn't that much fuel in the end. It's also very, very short, and it doesn't have boosters. It doesn't need boosters. It really doesn't. guessing. I'm not sure that this will be enough to get us out into orbit, though. I haven't really tested the Terrier engine under this application, but it should pull it off. I know it's enough to get us into orbit. I don't know if it's enough to get us to the Mun and back. And then back again. There's a few details I didn't really check. But, as you'll see, we're going to stage off all these. We're going to... Okay, we have Jebediah. We are going to turn on SAS. Let me just pull one of those up for now, just so that something's going on over there. And everything's good to go. We're going to immediately pitch to the right, that way I think, to the east, to hopefully hit 90 degrees. There's not much I can do without torque wheels. But we are going to, let's see, secondaries are empty, and the tertiaries are empty. And the rest of them. And these are empty slightly quicker. But watch the fuel levels here. They're full again. And we've already got our Apple axis up to 40 kilometers. And I forgot to fucking pitch it all. But I'm gonna continue showing how it works. And then we'll revert to the launch pad. You know, you'll see how the last stage works only once we're out into orbit because it has a little too much fuel. Too much, yes. Too much. All right. I can't believe I forgot a pitch. Or yaw in this case. Alright, definitely some pitch, but we're running, so it can yaw. Stage yaws. Oh my god, the Mun is right above us naturally. It should be. Alright, 80 kilometers for apoapsis. We still have plenty of delta V. It's going to keep going. I can't point at it with my finger. It's going to keep going up as we get into a thinner atmosphere and closer into a vacuum. And then it'll become constant. Ignoring fuel decreasing as we burn it, of course. I actually don't know any physics. Keep that in mind. You don't need physics to have fun in this game. You don't need to know physics. You will learn some. I didn't go into this game knowing any physics other than like what you're taught in like grade school, like Newton's laws and shit like that. I didn't know velocity had to include a direction. Thought it was just a fancy word for speed. That sort of thing. Once we get to 30 seconds, we'll start planning out minute burns to push ourselves all the way out. We probably could have done a single stage all the way out to there. But yeah, dude, we're in space now. Pretty cool. fuel, and now our main stage is full of fuel still, even though it's been firing. That is the beauty of the Asparagus stage. We still have all the fuel up here for the trailer. No cross fuel down there. We did kind of fuck up our burn, but because we're past apoapsis now, then we're beginning to approach periapsis, but we have enough time to fix it. As you can see, we're doing just fine. There you go. There's an orbit. It's not perfectly eccentric, but it's close to it. Close enough. That we are almost at our periapsis, which is wonderful, but we want to be at our apoapsis now, unfortunately, because we raised our periapsis insofar as becoming added by raising apoapsis so much at that last second or so of the burn, it swapped side. So we will burn on apoapsis, we'll burn prograde. I don't really need this in here. I don't need mech chip for this thing either. Interplanetary or interbody intercepts are easy as shit to pull off, especially now require plane changes. Oh, there you go. That's a curve and escape because we're too far off. So what we'll do is we'll burn retrograde a little bit more, line it up just right, because it doesn't actually line up perfectly at apoapsis. That's what I didn't want to have happen. We're going to scroll up for fine tuning. When you scroll too many times, it does it quicker. Put this for 800. I know I said I wasn't going to use it, but okay, 850, 840, 49, 45, 47, 48, 49 is it. How long is our encounter with the Mun? 4 hours, 25 minutes, 40 seconds, 31. Okay, plenty of time. What we will do is we'll make sure we're oriented prograde. We will, because that's our return from orbiting it. Clean. We will work to our next maneuver. We don't have target tracking, but it's not that big of a deal for this sort of thing. Such a small burn, it won't be off by much. We can burn truly prograde for it and be good. And we would have burned at 9 seconds. Node in T minus 9 seconds because our burn time is 18. We don't have instantaneous burn. Maybe one day. Sounds like they're bringing in a lot of sci-fi stuff as base content and as stock content in KSP2, like colonization, interstellar travel. That is at its roots sci-fi because. There's just no way a baby can be born healthy in space. Astronauts can barely live in it. As long as they do at a maximum. Even with the exercise innovations we've come up with for space flight. During space flight. Okay, we're almost at it. See, it's pretty much on target too. Didn't expect it to be that close. I expect it to be like 20 degrees off target. Alright, 18-second burn. It should be down about 9 seconds with it. T minus 9. Perfect. That's where things begins. Got a little bit of frame drop there, but we have an intercept still. Gonna warp right here. Watch that moon close in. It's only a 4-hour or so travel. Alright, now then, we're escaping. Escaping orbit of the Mun.
We have to drop our velocity to be within escape velocity, under escape velocity, as outside escape velocity centimeters. So I say it's within. Didn't make it better. We want to be under it. Sounds much more appropriate. Ooh, at this point, we add in some prograde burn. Now it looks like we're just continuing orbit. Kerbal back there, but there it is. That's an orbit of the Mun. 11 seconds of burn. We have 1 second of burn time left. I'm going to go ahead and face retrograde now and pop off an early burn. And then I'm going to go ahead and delete that maneuver node so we can adjust for a better one. I just didn't want that fuel to go to complete waste. I know if I waited to burn, it would just fuck me over because the staging would slow us down. Trying to conserve as much fuel in this burn as possible. That's why I'm even bothering with the maneuver node, otherwise I just burn at periapsis without looking at the map at all. Until we had a prograde apoapsis around the moon. But there you go, there it is. We want to burn at T-5. Warp to next maneuver. We're oriented retrograde already. And I'm going to go ahead and extend that warp, because that's a long time to wait. For such a small burn. At times, you're going to wish I was able to do this during burns. When we start going to other planets, God, can it get boring. It's so fucking long. Fuck, see, that's what I was afraid would happen. Still have plenty of fuel on it. How much delta we have? Oh, this little thing once we're in space with this little of fuel. These are half the size of the smallest fuel tanks from the last stages. Equal to one of those small ones from the bottom. Contract parameters are complete. We got a good amount of science off that alone. Should have brought a TD-18 decoupler with us. Whatever. We'll live. Sorta. Alright. Basically, that's that for getting to the Mun. A little bit of science I might want here. Yeah, that's good. High in space over the Mun. We're too high to grab biome-specific data. But log the temperature, keep it, log the pressure, keep it, and because these might burn up on re-entry, I'm going to go ahead and take the data off them. I'm going to store it extra quick by just going right back into the ship. And that's that. At this point, we would go to apoapsis. We have to burn over on this side, sadly. Kind of a fuel waste. We would burn prograde. I'm gonna give it a slightly bigger burn. And move it back. There we go. We burn at 1.5 seconds ultimately. So, SAS for, okay, I thought we were out of electric charge. That was a little scary. perform the first spacewalk in orbit of the Mun.
Cool. Because the last time we went here, we didn't have the astronaut complex upgraded, so we couldn't go on an EVA off the surface of Kerbal. Orient prograde is good. And warp to next maneuver. We just need to get about 99 delta V, as you can see here, or here from where we set it, in the prograde direction. And then our orbit around Kerbal will look roughly like this purple dotted line. This represents our escape from the Mun. It needed an orbit, otherwise we could have just kept with the pattern we had on exiting Kerbal and gone right back into Kerbal's orbit. It's a stronger pull, but that's a flyby, not an orbit, and it's not happy with those. Gotta get it down to 1.5 seconds. So like the second that it drops from 2 seconds to 1, we'll fire, as opposed to waiting to react a little bit. Like that's a second, but that's right on the ball. Good to go. And then we will end up at our apoapsis in 2 days, our periapsis in 5 days. But the second that we get over to here, we're gonna burn retrograde. We have no signal strength right now. Well, we have enough, but we also aren't unmanned, so this is safe as it is. And from here we would burn retrograde, keeping an eye on periapsis. Apoapsis will be eyed later, but we'll go ahead and activate them now. Son of a bitch. We're gonna slingshot right back into orbit of the Mun. Look at how fucking beautiful that orbit is, though. Look at that gorgeous flyby. Holy shit, that is really cool. Burn prograde really quick. That's a little too low for my taste. There we go. Warp all the way back. We're just bleeding off some speed here, but continuing to do this in small little bits. Because right now our surface speed is pretty high. We will burn up on re-entry. We don't have a heat shield attached. Even though we have them unlocked, I didn't think to add one. It's my own fault. I don't use them much early game. I don't use them much late game either. Why everybody's still yawning? I don't use them much late game either because I don't do very many manned missions late game. Sometimes I'll get a contract to rescue a stranded Kerbal in space, but Kerbal. Beyond that, I avoid landing like a plague. Drop that apoapsis. Okay, megameters from here, kilometers. Not here. That's for sure. Okay, we kind of missed it. Right there. Just decreasing our orbit size here. Nothing more, nothing too fancy. And our periapsis is 90 kilometers because they just swap sides, I bet. Yep. Also, shifted a little bit. Cool. Now that I'm going to get back to the periapsis, I'll warp there. And we don't have much fuel left now. We have 4 seconds of burn left.
Actually, I'm going to, that looked like a polar ice cap, didn't it? That must have just been a desert. Why do they look like that from space? It should look like sand. Oh, there's another set of snow. I've got most of the biomes EVA reports logged by now. Alright, so we burn. Swap sides on Periapsis again. So now, where we were was our Periapsis, but now it's our Apoapsis. Periapsis ends up right here. And I am going to continue to hold retrograde, but I'm going to warp there. It's not going to actually bring me all the way in. We also move off because it doesn't hold target, or it doesn't hold the SAS heading instructions during time warp, which is fine. It also doesn't use as much electricity. Well, you have to have hibernation and other things turned on to fully turn off electric discharge. But from SAS, which is our current real only actualized usage or realized usage of electricity, not an issue. So we're supposed to land right around here. Remember the crater? There it is. We'll probably end up landing somewhere in the water back here. I thought I used all my fuel. I didn't. There you go. There's all my fuel used. Oh, we're gonna keep this staged on until we start to burn up. Because these aren't that cheap. I mean, early game, they're not that cheap. The science pieces we have attached. And they'll probably burn right off if we detach it before we even start burning, or early in the burn. Like the re-entry burn, I'm sorry. I keep using terms like that interchangeably without clarifying the ambiguity, but the unimplied ambiguity between the two. Everything's set to go though. Good staging, parachute will pop, good spread angle, yeah. We'll be set.
Oh my god. Okay. I'm gonna step away for June. Oh, I guess not. Once we destage, once we stage into stage 1, technically, I guess, right? Yeah. I'll hop off for a second. I'll still be streaming, but I'll be away from my chair. So I gotta grab a little something more to eat. That wasn't enough, unfortunately. I'm not sure I've ever used keyboard controls to change the camera angle. Until now. Wow. This is mind-blowing. Graphics aren't anything to look at, that's for sure. And the sneak peeks from KSP2 on the Steam page for it, they're not much either, but the content is so much greater. Like, there is interstellar travel mods possible in KSP1, but I've never really looked into it. By such a can't
temperature in space, the thermometer doesn't really mean anything, though, does it? Because it has nothing to measure the temperature of other than itself. It's pretty fucking deep. Stage parachute. And yeah, I'm gonna step away because it's gonna take a minute or so. Alright, still got a good amount of time. Looking good. Oh god, did I put the fork back on the wall? Okay. That would have been the first time I've ever microwaved a fork. I'm glad that didn't just happen. I didn't grab temperature readings from the water. Not a big deal. Not a big deal. Got 72 science off of just that. Is that really 72? It doesn't look like 72. 16 by 3 plus 24. Yeah, that's 72. So we got 127 science before the contract completed. That's enough to get started with space stations.
didn't actually mean to click into here. It's a very grindy game early on, but we're almost past that. And I streamed almost everything so far. Everything from this career playthrough. Yeah, a lot of that was in that flight. A lot of this time difference from year one, day zero, was from that one flight. Yeah, the previous flight to the moon in the last stream. Actually, that's pretty much all of the time that's elapsed. We're gonna go ahead and grab miniaturization. Then we're gonna go over to the mission control. And a rescue mission this early on, okay. Go ahead and grab it. Yeah, there you go. I'm gonna get paid in science for doing science? Alright, extra science, why not? Test TD12 decoupler splashdown at Kerbal. I love it when those missions are test and landed down, because then you just have to put in the slightest bit of fuel in like an ant engine. So they do have their uses. And turn it on and let it bleed out of fuel, and it won't have moved up any bit, but it'll have landed. Then you run your test and you're done. Now it's a launch pad. Because it's a parachute that makes it a long process to deal with. Oh, the moon's worse. You can't use a parachute on the moon, can you? I won't lie, I've never actually tried to use the parachute. I've just always figured parachutes don't work in a vacuum. Sort of like how aerodynamics don't work in a vacuum. Which I guess is what parachutes are, ultimately. They have lift. I wonder how much I could do with having a parachute deployed while I'm launching. I know I've tried doing this before and it turned out terrible, but I didn't try it on purpose, it was an accident. Maybe if I repeat the exact same behavior but on purpose, it'll turn out better. This is a tricky one. We're actually already at max contracts. Never mind, we don't even have to consider taking it on yet. What we have to do is build some probes, and then I'm off. I'm not gonna launch any of them. I'm not gonna be very happy with any of these probes either, because as I said earlier, to build successful probes, we need a few things. We need torque controllers too, but we also need precision propulsion items. We simply can't get to them, not in the lifetime of these contracts, without doing these contracts themselves, no less. But I think we just took on like an inventory of almost entirely an inventory of satellite contracts. So I'm excited for space around Kerbal. Test TD-25 was an old one. Explore the Mun is the sequel to our last Explore the Mun. Position satellite in a specific orbit of Kerbal. Position satellite in an equatorial orbit of Kerbal. Position satellite in synchronous orbit of Minmus. This is an old one. Oh, that's one. I've never done a Minmus synchronous orbit though. How much of the information does it give me? I do have to do a fair amount of math myself. I don't even think it's missing any of the details. It's everything you could possibly know about an orbit. The rest of it can be calculated fairly easily. Like eccentricity is easily calculated off that. So, Minmus, that's going to be tricky. Very tricky. Very, very, very tricky. I won't deny it. But this same concept from Bad Dreams 2 can be used with even more success with Pro. Let me explain. This is, including the Terrier engine and its fuel, and the decoupler, this is what we're keeping. With the parachute, and the command pod, and I think a crew member is included. No, wait, let's check. It's not, but a crew member does have weight in the end. So we end up weighing about a ton with the crew member. I mean, I don't know how tall Kerbals are, but 50 kilograms isn't outside the realm of possibility for their weight. So we get rid of all of that stupid excess weight, replace it with stupid lightweight components that weigh, oh my god, this one's heavy as shit. But it's less than a ninth of this size. And actually, I lied. We aren't keeping, if we can help it, we aren't keeping that piece. Miniaturization brought with it a TS06 stack separator. Fuck. Anyways, I said earlier I was going to explain what I was talking about with the sub-assemblies and how you can drag and drop stuff into here. So let's say I really like this. This part of a rocket ship. Let's say it looks like this inside of let's call this Sadie. So I've got a great name. Curb Your Enthusiasm. I know, so fucking funny. First generation Kerbal Pro. That doesn't need to be capitalized. Pro. So let's say that I wanted to apply this part of this whole thing to other ships, whether they're probes or not. But I don't care about the stack separator and the octo. In other words, about the payload. Assuming that this engine is enough for maneuvering in space for orbital maneuvers, and that this is enough power for for a given payload to get it off the ground and into proper orbit. What you would do is you would take it, you would detach it as it exists connected to a node, or connected to your, connected to this. And then you would go and you would click reroute, or you would press 4 on your mouse, or on your keyboard, whatever. If it's on your keyboard, I'd suggest just moving over to reroute with your mouse. And then you select, it'll say select a set of 2 or more parts to reroute. Just click whatever you want on this. And then you're going to click it is being a pain in the butt right now. Reroute. There we go. This has a root now. This is our root piece. Stuff can be added to it. The root piece, the root node is empty. That is a requirement in order to make a subassembly. We're going to call this a rocket subassembly. You go ahead and drop it right there. Drop it again over here, just so that you're not dragging it around for eternity. We're going to call this asparagus plus. Asparagus stages for a mid-sized payload. Comes with maneuvering engine, and that's all we get. Comes with carrier engine. Also, okay, we actually have enough room for the word also. Okay, cool. We hit a character limit in these. It's a little annoying because they will give us some stupid long descriptions in their stuff, and then in the end it doesn't even fit. I'm gonna fucking die. Anyways, so let's say, oh no, I'm making a whole new thing, right? I don't wanna keep opening up whatever Curb Your Enthusiasm 1. Let's say that's where this whole asparagus stage perfected for probe-sized payloads came from. I don't want to have to keep opening this from here to grab it and start my next build. I want to just, I've already got my payload designed. I don't want to have to redesign it on top of it. That's not a problem. You keep that payload design open. Click it in your subassemblies area of the advanced. You get that right here, of the advanced mode. Drop it on there. Good to go. That's everything. Back to simple mode, because I said I would discuss that. There are YouTube videos out there discussing subassemblies. What they fail to explain, at least on the top, because I don't think Scott Manley's done a video on them. If he has, I haven't seen it, so he may have properly approached explaining subassemblies. I don't know. Other than that, the ones that come up for top views and most relevant in a YouTube search or a Google search don't explain that you need a free root node or what a free root node is. Because, yeah, you actually do get a message when you try and drag and drop a subassembly into it. A new one into there, if it doesn't have a free root node. You probably don't use these as often. So you definitely don't use reroute that often. It's not that useful. So it's easy to get confused. It took me probably 30 minutes of like non-stop hair pulling, trying to figure it out what it meant. Because it does have a free root node. It's up here, right? Like it's right there. It's right there. But it just did not recognize it. No, it looked like when I first tried to set the root node, it wouldn't let me choose this one again because that was already the root node, possibly. If that was the case, maybe some of the time, maybe by default, it does its best to have root node ready to go when you detach a part, but it's always safe to do it the way I did it, which is to force that as the root node, just in case. If you decide not to do that, but then you're encountering issues where it gives you a little warning, it says, hey, you can't do this, there's no free root node. That's what you want to do with the free root tool over here. Or 4 on your mouse or keyboard. On the numbers, not the number pad. And you'll be good to go. So what we need to do here, which I don't really like doing, but we need, because we need this little like dog neck cone, you know, like when a dog gets goes to the vet, the cartoon cone. I mean, they actually do it, but it's too big on the end. Oh god, that is I keep seeing the word nacelle somewhere. I think there's engines that look like this that are called nacelle, and I don't know why I'm recognizing them off of the appearance of this, because I've never used the nacelle engine or whatever the nacelle is. What we're trying to find right now is a way to adapt this. We go, that works. This way is slightly less. So I'll go ahead and grab the orange one. It's orange enough. I'm obsessed with orange. It's not anywhere near my favorite color, but of the options you get, orange looks pretty decent when it's actually orange. Like this is orange, but it's not orange. Clearly not orange. It's also clearly not gray. Black and gray is not a gray area, more black and white. Isn't it? Quite literally. I digress. We don't need a parachute. So, whereas before we weighed, an extra almost ton, we are only, and that was not including the stack separator. So I am not going to include this. We only weigh a tenth of a ton now. And it also didn't include the weight of the astronaut that would have been in it. This is unmanned. No astronaut. Good to go. Almost. We have to meet parameters for each satellite that needs to be in orbit of Kerbal. Other than the polar orbit, if there is one. Inclination of 1.1 degrees. Fairly equatorial, I believe. Yeah, it's fairly equatorial. Minor adjustments on this orbit to get us into that orbit. This is a synchronous orbit of Mimas. It has a deadline quite distant in the future, so we'll hold off on it. We need better engines to reliably get us there, and then something lighter than the Terrier. Like, I'd like to have the nuclear engine to get us from Kerbal orbit to Mimas orbit, and then a smaller engine, something like the Terrier, if not the Terrier itself, to get us into the proper synchronic parameters of that orbit. Meaning that our orbit takes the same amount of time to go around as that body does. So we will never, that if you pointed the tip of that ship and it had a little tiny camera that was zoomed in to like a pixel on the ground, it would basically always be that same pixel in view. Any day of the year, any year in the future, unless something collided with it and moved it a little bit. Small things in reality do change, so you probably can't get a perfectly synchronous orbit of Jupiter. You definitely can't get one of the Sun. Because Jupiter itself pulls on the Sun so much. Other solar systems have similar things to Jupiter. Some are worse, some are slightly less noticeable. I swear I don't actually know any physics. Everything I know I learned from playing ASP. That should really be on a t-shirt. All the physics I needed to know I learned from ASP. If you're out there, Scott Manley. Figure a way to convince them to do it. You're the only one with enough say so. So it definitely needs a to be able to generate power. So back into our payload. We've got our Terrier engine and our fuel tanks. Attached to those, we want service bays, 1.25 meter in profile. Open those bad boys up. Grab. Actually, you know what? We don't need service bays. Fuck you, service bay. Get out of here. Sorry. We'll grab some Z200s. They're actually twice the charge, too. And we can connect those directly to forehead. Directly to the Octo module. That gives us a little more room to play around with. Since these don't deploy and they don't track the sun, it gets a little trickier. It's at about, yeah, we can't do 8 and keep it pretty, can we? I wouldn't call it pretty, but it's a thing. And then we would go and we would say we want, oh my god, is it not communication? Oh, because that's science. Communication. This is a high gain antenna. It does both relay and direct. Our other ones are just direct antennas. We are going to need a relay antenna, ultimately. But we need, for controlling this thing out in orbit with the, really shitty bubble tracking center, we need the best option here, which actually, the antenna rating on this is still the best option. And these are combinable, right? Combinable. It's decaying. It's a decaying combinable formula. I don't know it off the top of my head. I do know that it is non-linear. The rate at which it combines is non-linear. But something like that. And then these actually extend and retract. It can be a little annoying when they're added in symmetry. Here, I'll show you real quick and then we'll come back into here as quick as it can load, at least. It can be a little annoying to manually go through and deploy and extend. I'm explaining all these more basic, nuancy parts of KSP simply because this is a fresh start and I may as well while I'm at it. It can be annoying to extend and retract, especially once you start adding solar panels and different types of extendable stuff one by one, but when they're added in symmetry, solar panels, antennas, wheels, landing gear, whatever, although landing gear automatically goes in the gear action group, along with deployable and retractable wheels. In symmetry mode, right-clicking one and extending it. Okay. Well, this is even more of a reason to do what I'm about to show you. It was supposed to do them all at once. I don't know what happened to that. That hasn't updated since the last time I tested that. That's for sure. That's wild that just happened. That's truly wild. Anyways, you've got these things called actions right up here. Actions right up there. See it up there? Alright. You get boring ones. Stage, gear, light, RCS, SAS, brakes, port. Port's hidden. I'll show you when we go to actually launch this thing. I'm actually going to grab a beer and go ahead and launch it for the end of the stream. May as well enjoy the fruit of our labor and not just build it and launch it next stream. And I'll go ahead and launch a second probe for the second one instead of just adjusting the orbit of this one. We do need the extra satellites in space. Plus, it can open up new contracts, but it has a higher chance of giving us a certain type of new contract, which is adjusting the orbit of a contract designated probe around the same body, of course. So you go ahead and you select one of them. When they're added in symmetry, selecting one of them does select all of the ones from that symmetry. That I know has not changed. There's no way that that's changed. You can go in and you can say custom 1 through 10. That means for custom 1, to toggle it, you press the 1 key on your mouse if you've got it, or on your keyboard, not the numpad, the number line.
2, same thing. 9, same thing. 10, you hit the 0 key. Early on, when I discovered action groups for doing this, I would put it on gear, but then I started building complex space stations and started using other parts because, like, in situ resource utilization, ISRU, for creating fuel, I'd want, custom one to turn off all types of fuel production other than a certain one, and then I'd want, 4 to turn on the other type, 2 to turn on another type, 3 to turn on another type of fuel production, and have all the others ensured to be off. And then I'd want the final custom action group to turn all of them off. But I wouldn't want to turn them all off on the same as the gear, because then that meant turning off my solar panels. Like retracting my solar panels, which I didn't always want. I only wanted to retract my solar panels if they were in the way of a docking node, a docking node, and I was going to have something dock into it that would brush up against the solar panels and potentially destroy them, or antennas or other destructible components. So we're gonna go ahead and put extend antenna on here, and that can be proved by we click any of these. Click any of these here. We'll click that, and then we'll click this one. Still, no option to extend it anymore. No option to extend it. No option to extend it. That hasn't changed. There's your proof. Custom group 2, gonna do retract antenna. Now we're done with that. We go back into here. Now there are going to be times when none of these hit the sun, even when the sun is out. 19,000 is a little expensive for an early probe, isn't it? Right about there. If we go into, and this is a mod, it's from Near Future, you end up getting this by default, Near Future Electric at the least. We generate 2.45 EC per second in theory. They actually have to hit the sun though. But this is a charge rate of 21 per minute. Not the rate I wanted to see. 0.3 per second. We have 6 of them there and 7 up top. 0.3 times 7 gives us 2.1. I don't actually know where the 2.4 came from. Because these definitely generate more electricity with their alternator. 7 a second. Yeah, I don't know where the 0.33 is coming from. Bizarre. Not a big deal though. So we've got a fair amount of electric there. This stores 10 electric charge, which is actually quite little. I bet it weighs 100 kilo. That's a good place to be. Oh, it's enough electric. It's gonna be orbiting Kerbal. It's gonna get sun most of the time, and we'll have SAS off when we're not using it, so we'll really drain electric. Except if it's acting as a relay, but it'll be it'll be out of use in theory, so it shouldn't track the electric too heavily. Otherwise, we would have plenty of frame drop. It would be about part count dropping frames, and debris and other actually usable ships in space. It would be solely because of dying all the time and being checked, let alone other guys not just checking it all the time. And you're probably gonna wonder, the fuck do I want? Why the hell do I want this on here, huh? There will come a time when when I will beat myself up because this does not have a docking node on it. I don't want a docking node on it right now. And there'll also come a time when I'm really, all I want is to replace maybe these antennas. And these solar panels, that'll come fairly soon. Its own right. And I'll be using Kerbal inventory system and Kerbal attachment system to pull that off. And in doing so, I'm gonna really wish I had a ladder already on here, or a ladder in the Kerbal's inventory that's on EVA to upgrade module. So, without further ado, just a few pre-flight checks. Any other components missing? Build a new unmanned probe that has an antenna and can generate power? Check. Chat, definitely a check. That's it. Build a new unmanned probe that has a materials base. I hate your guts. We don't have to meet both of these. We don't have to meet both of these. Build a new unmanned probe that has an antenna and can generate power. Like, we don't have to build one that does both of these. I think the materials bay is this. With the Science Junior. Materials bay. Science Junior, yeah. Alright. So, even though the equatorial orbit is easier to pull off, the only real difference is that this one is 1.1 kilometers or 1.1 degrees of inclination. It's also a different apoapsis, periapsis, longitude, so blah blah blah, but equatorial is specific as well. Right? It should only just gonna require this. The longitude of ascending node and the argument of periapsis will fall together pretty nicely once we get our semi-major axis, which is based on these, taken care of, and the equatorial radius of Kerbal, which I think is 600 kilometers. All off the top of my head. We can check on the map, I think. I set it to focus. But yeah, that's all. That's it. Nothing more to it. That's a probe. A really, really freaking ugly one. But aren't they all?
This early in the game, I mean, this might be one of the better looking things I've made so far, huh? And it doesn't weigh much either. Look at how short it is.
I'm pretty happy with that for an early probe. Even my late game probes are at least this size, including the insanely short unmanned, because I'll typically go with a hex or an octo too, which are both pretty flat. So this is the one we're going for. 1.1 degrees of inclination. We'll have to work all of this out once we're up in a stable orbit. So I'm not going to worry too much about it just yet. What we want to do is our normal pitch east, yaw east, and be done with it. The reason I keep messing up the usage of the word pitch when I'm supposed to say yaw isn't because I don't know the difference, actually. The difference isn't the issue. The issue is that I'm used to having my ship rotated so that we pitch down to hit 90 degrees. So this is like flipped like that. So this point faces this way, or faces, faces this way. And then we end up pitching down to go into 90 degrees of orbit, but we don't get so lucky this time around, do we? As you can see, pressing 1 deploys all of them. Pressing 2 brings them back in. I'm gonna go grab a beer and we will launch this bad boy. This does require electricity, so I'm gonna put it in hibernation mode. beer is to pour out in case Jebediah doesn't make it. Oh, well, you know what? Jebediah this is actually the safest command module we have. Because no command, no Kerbals can fit inside of it. Thus, they're kept safely away from any danger involved in it. That's the way to go. Alright, we are gonna cancel hibernation. The other joy, the non-clarified joy in asparagus staging is, yeah, these are 1,372 delta V, 1864 delta V. They're higher because they still have the same amount of fuel they had from the start, but they have less weight involved, which means we can get more in velocity out of burning all of its fuel than we can with all the weight original. But it's actually not correct. It won't have 1864. It won't have 1372 because by the end of this 20-second burn, which will last slightly longer than 20 seconds because of atmosphere changing, we'll be in a thinner atmosphere. It'll have more delta V as we go up, but we are running out of time to get our alternators powered up for this. So we've got it in maneuver mode, got our fuel overlay, and we've got everything good to go. Let's cross our fingers and hope for the best. Oh god, I forgot I have to hold myself. I don't have it broken. Yeah, that's too much. I'm gonna revert that to launch and see if that was user error or if that is design flaw. It might not be arrow friendly. So, with that in mind, click for version info, physics, not contract, come on. Physics, arrow, display arrow forces in flight. It is kind of cheating, but it's under the cheat menu, it's below it. Was that flashing? Oh, duh, it's the arrow overlay. I thought it was an indicator of some sort. On the ship, not on, because it is an indicator, it's an indicator of drag, which we shouldn't even be getting an indicator for drag. Okay, they are retracted. Launch. Good job. It's not listening. Because it did that all on its own. Where's where the drag coming from? Coming from under the solar panel up there. I'm sorry. Bad advice. It's not something I normally do, but I also don't normally use these Oxstat panels. Not a fan of them. Not a fan of a lot of the near future electrical panels either, the solar panels either, but that's a different story. I'm really only a fan of deployable. After that, as long as it's appropriately sized for the ship and the electric needs, to be realistic looking, I'm happy with it. As long as it is not only deployable, but retractable once deployed. There are some that cannot be retracted, but can be deployed. Let's get this right this time. Fuel overlay. And pushing 94 or heading 94. Oh my god, it's not even listening when it doesn't have a torque motor. That's what's happening. There is no onboard torque in this module, is there? Reaction wheel 0.3. It should be enough. Whatever. Command and control. Your boy doesn't have anything. Oh my god. Such an important aspect for a space station too, and that's what I was looking for, not probe contracts. But we won't get a space station contract until we've started building our first one, which simply means docking a ship to another ship. So when we'll get the accomplishment for our first space station around whatever body it happens around. Luckily we can't afford one. Got fairly lucky on that. Right, command and control. We're only putting one on. It doesn't matter where we put it in this case. But in terms of keeping it sort of pretty, there you go. Nothing concerning about this vessel. Nothing at all. Nothing to be concerned about here. Just failed to launch a bunch of times in a row. And this is our last shot at getting the design aspect of it right. After that, add more reaction. Yeah, I hope you guys saw that. I think it's all okay, but that is not how spaceships should load. Jesus Christ. That was terrifying. I thought it was over before it was even gonna start. Okay. SAS is on Z, and make sure we're not hibernated. Yeah, okay. Because that's what I was afraid the issue was, but we were reverting to launch. It was a save before we ever fucked with any of those sort of settings. I'm gonna move my center speaker so that I can actually see heading without ducking around my desk. And zoom out just a little bit. There it is. Oh, that's all. We'll be happy with it. That was a frustration thing. I actually did mean to destage all that because I knew it wasn't going well. We do have AVR8 winglets, so let's have a good control surface. A little bit long, but at least they poke out. Probably the basic winglets, and then the AV21s are just kind of weird looking. Well, we could go and we could put winglets on all of these. Fins, sorry. And you know what? Let's go ahead and do that. They cost very little. They weigh very little. I think we just added all the weight we shaved off by losing an astronaut, at least, if not also by losing the parachute and the Mark 1 command module. But this is good weight, right? Okay. Like I said, that's a little launch. It's holding now. Just have to get 20 kilometers of metal tip on that, so we'll see. Now go out to 20. 80 kilometers it is. Look at that exit burn. Just how fucking fast we were actually going.
There's nothing more beautiful than that Corona right there. Is that the right word? Corona? Oh, it seems like the right word. Don't actually know why. That's the sun. Which is why there's a Corona. That must be the right word. Because I knew that. But at first I was wondering what this beam of light was before we could see the sun. Looked like a lighthouse. But it wasn't moving, and it's also like 300 kilometers long. Oh yeah, we also have to pitch up. Because we don't have prograde holes on SAS anymore. This is where it gets a little tricky. Any maneuvers we do to adjust our orbit into the required parameters have to be done one by one because we don't have a target hold, which means we definitely have to do them one by one. I can't possibly track a target hold setting as it moves across during a burn. It's already hard enough to track it moving in one direction with one variable and what changes the target. Such as right now, it would be if we had a maneuver, it would be the prograde ball and track burn time. Well, it's a little easier when the burn time's over here and not under our Apple axis time to reach area. Prograde's going to be pretty steady on that point now. Well, we're close enough to it. To the prograde head, not to an appropriate periapsis to begin the maneuver out into where we want to be, which is probably a fairly similar inclination to where we fucked this up. Should be within a reasonable scope. Maneuver info, advanced orbital info. 1.2, we need one. Isn't that just dandy? Holy shit. We don't have to mess with burning normal and anti-normal. What the fuck? No, I just lost all control of the ship. Nothing is working anymore, none of my keys. Oh my god. I don't know what the hell just happened. We still have signal strength. Direct connection to the space center. We have an electric charge. What the hell just happened to us? My mouse isn't moving either, and the keys aren't moving the camera view. I can't pause. I can click on all these, it's no issue. You've got to be shitting me. Toggle map doesn't do anything. What the fuck just happened to us? Oh my god. This is not what I expected at all. It looks like it's frozen over here too. At the least I want to revert the flight. I guess that's the end of the stream. I have to hard close the game so that it doesn't save us up here in an unrecoverable state. Hopefully it doesn't save us up here in an unrecoverable state. I'm sorry for the unexpected end of the stream, but yeah. That sucks. Big time. We'll get it tomorrow. We fixed the issue. We probably didn't even need the thrust or the inline command stabilizer, the torque thing, the rotational torque item that we added right before the wings that we had to unlock. Probably didn't need that, but regardless, we will reconvene sometime around noon Eastern time tomorrow and get this working. I've never had the game freeze on me before. So this is unexpected. It's using none of my CPU whatsoever. It's using about 2 gigs of RAM. Not using my disk. It's just a Unity freeze, it seems. Oh, and it's running in DirectX 9 instead of OpenGL. So a few things can be fixed with it. I don't know why it's running. It's running in OpenGL because we started from CCAN, actually. But or it's running in DirectX 9 instead of OpenGL. But that's not why it froze. I've run it in from CCAN before. This just doesn't make any sense. I don't know what happened. We had like a perfect orbital info. I really don't know what happened to us. We have plenty of electric. We have direct connection to the Space Center, which is what it seemed like the issue. It seemed like we lost command of the vessel. But, no, now this is locked out too. That shouldn't happen at all. Alright, that's the end of the stream, sadly. Very abrupt. I apologize. Have a good night, basically. That's all I can say. Sorry for how disappointing this video ends for anybody who's not watching it live, too. But, shit happens. And we're freezing. Okay. Figure something out in the near future. And oh my god, did I have echo the whole fucking time? I apologize for that. I told it not to use an audio input on my web camera. I have to tell it every time. And I told it this time, but it didn't listen. So my audio is probably a lot cleaner right now than it has been the whole stream. It's a real disappointment as well. Sorry. I'm moving away from the software on my next stream, that's for sure. It's just not worth it. I'd sooner make my own than continue to use XSplit. There's just so many issues. Settings like that should be saved at the least to the scene, if not, if not generally saved per item. I never want audio input from my camera when I've already got audio input from my microphone. It's not right. It doesn't make any sense. But yeah,
All right, we're done here.